Hi there. As I started to set up to do videos for this channel, I realized that my shop definitely looked like garbage. I don't think it'll ever be Instagram pretty, but as you can see, some of the cleanup has already been done, but I decided to film the process and I thought maybe somebody might find it motivating or cathartic to watch a little bit of cleanup and the construction of this cleat wall. So here we are a few days later. Definitely fewer things out here that I want to get rid of from the garage. And I definitely lowered or shrank the scope of this project for what I'm doing all at once. Originally I hoped to get rid of all that on the bottom and build different things, but the amount of space it takes up just to make more space, is pretty large. And so everything is in boxes behind me on my assembly table, and over here on top of everything else. And I really can't do much other than this project. So yeah, if you're gonna reorganize your whole workshop space, uh, definitely make sure you have no other emergencies happening. Um, yeah, so I've marked out the studs, and it's about as organized as it's going to get over here. I'll have to shuffle things around as I put the cleat panels up, um, but now it's time to run about 1,000,000 miles of Baltic birch through the saw. When I say 1,000,000 miles, it was probably about 100 feet, but it felt like a lot. And who doesn't love a really uniform set of offcuts? Most of the time when I see people build these, I see them building them vertically, right on the wall using a spacer. In the event that I move someday and don't feel like redoing all of these, I'm building them in panels that I can take off the wall. I'm also building them a little more tightly together than I normally see, uh, using 4.5-inch cleats, and the pieces on the fixture will be 2.5 inches wide, barely fitting through. I think that the tight fit between the gaps will make it so that I don't have to engineer some strange and clever solution for preventing things from falling off the wall. But we'll see. It's a bit of an experiment. And I just do this by using that spacer up there and clamping everything down after some glue. And then I wait for that to set, and then I use a brad nailer to give it a little more strength from behind. This sort of overcomplicates thing, I guess. I could just use the brad nailer, but I just didn't want the pins showing on the front. Because doing it this way I don't have the benefit of a ledger, I'm simply trapping the backer along a straight piece of scrap along the bottom, and then I align the bottom cleat to that. Alright, so these things are just about ready to get put up on the wall. I'm going to give them a light coat of polyurethane just to protect them a little bit from getting bashed around and from the weather. But we've got the ledger up, and it should be, hopefully, as simple as setting the panels on that ledger and screwing them into the wall. The remainder of this video will simply be longer versions of the shorts I made showing the construction of various cleat wall holders. Alright, so here's the first fixture we're going to make for the new cleat wall. It's just going to be a simple towel holder. One of the things I like most about the cleat wall is that you can make most of the fixtures out of scrap material, and so this is an opportunity to get creative with scraps I have laying around. And because all of my stuff is still mostly packed away, I'm just going to do it with hand saws and a drill. As you can see, you just need a little bit of 1/4 ply, some scraps of 3/4 ply, a little bit of your cleat material, short length of PVC, drill some holes in these smaller pieces of scrap, and then mark some lines that you like. The angle is not that important, as long as it's got some support, edge of the hole. Then I'm going to saw out that waste and then transfer that line to the other piece and cut it out. So those are cut. It just happened to have very similar tear out on some of those holes. Is it going to be ugly? Sure. But it's also just going to hold paper towels. So for sticking together the two pieces of 3/4 ply, I'm just going to put a little glue, maybe a brad nail in there for some extra strength. And then I'm going to register them against the backing piece of plywood just to create a small rabbet as a registration point for this laminated piece, and it should just make it a little sturdier. So here's the finished fixture. You just put some paper towel on the piece of PVC and drop it into the notch and hang it on the wall. And that's the finished product there. It is not pretty, but all it has to do is hold paper towels. A French cleat wall. It's a great way to dig into that scrap pile and make something useful, and also great for organizing your garage. Alright, so here we go with another scrap cleat fixture. Just some pegs to hold tape, a shelf for this thing and this other thing, and on which bottles like this will sit, and a couple of holders for these brushes and for a couple of these rollers. This is all made out of 3/4 ply scrap, and I think a couple of little pieces of 1/2-inch ply on a 1/4 inch backing. And obviously, as with all of these, you just go ahead and adjust them to your own needs. These here I just drilled out and sawed to and just made a little groove here for registering part of the handle, but your rollers may be different. And then this is the same. I just drilled a hole here and then used a saw to extend the groove. When gluing on the cleats, it doesn't matter so much if you get some squeeze out, on the non-cleat side. But if you get any in here, just make sure that you use a toothpick or something to clear that out, or you're going to end up with a bad fit on the wall. Alright, so there's the glue and tape organizer. Not terrible. It's functional. It isn't going to win any beauty pageants, but again, as with all of these fixtures, I'm not here to over-design them. I'm making functional objects so that I can get back to making things out of wood, not to keep making things for making things out of wood. So I narrowed it down to 4 chargers, and they are of different shapes, so I got to get a little creative with how I'm arranging them, because some of them press in from the front or the side. But all in all, that just means I need a 18-inch long, 7.5-inch tall backer for this thing. And honestly, these two really horrendously ugly pieces of plywood came out of my scrap pile like that, and they're basically just, one of them is maybe a 1/2 inch long, the other is only about 4 inches too long. And so yeah, it's not going to be pretty, but it's going to get the job done, and that's what I need. Now, I dislike these right angle clamps about as much as any tool I've ever owned, but since I have no access to most of my tools and I wanted this ledge to be square, I resorted to using them, but that said, don't buy them. So this one is pretty janky. For my needs, I needed 4 different chargers. The 2 Ryobi chargers I'm using have eyelets in the back, and so they mount really firmly to these screws. But the other 2 have no holes on them and even have feet on the bottom. So to keep them on the wall, I have little ledges for them to register against, and also just like some twine to hold them in place with these eyelets I had laying around. So yeah, hopefully that works. I see no reason why it shouldn't, but it is going to be kind of ugly. And there it is. It's not the prettiest of solutions, but before it was taking up, you know, this much of the workbench I had out here before. Now it's just taking up a small space on the wall, and it's actually organized. I didn't film organizing these, but this is a collection of measuring implements that I wanted to have on the wall. This fixture was incredibly simple, so I didn't think filming it was useful. It's just 2 shelves. Just something to hold levels and squares and things of that nature. Um, Again, ugly. Those are screws with the heads cut off and wrapped in hockey tape, and then some simple shelves to hold things. So yeah, nothing too fancy, but check out that live edge. All right, so here we are with another one. Really simple construction. I wanted to see how far I could get with just glue on this one. This is for pencils and marking and whatnot. So we got like a shelf, and that'll be for my marking gauges and the Incra Tiny T, and then just pencils and knives and what have you. Very simple dadoed box, and just glue for fastener. All right, so that's that, simple and effective. Um, one of the problems that emerged out of keeping my stuff in sort of a pile for so long is that I kept buying or stealing pencils from inside the house, and they really piled up. I have way too many of these, but they're good pencils, and I'll leave them out here. But I just like having to give so much real estate to this Incra Tiny T, but I don't use it very often. But it seems very fragile, and I was worried that if I mounted it sideways, I'd end up bumping it and it would just bend and then immediately become garbage. So yeah, another very simple one. Seems to be pretty sturdy despite being just glue and 1/8 ply. No, sorry, not. So next up is one of the fixtures I've been dreading. I've amassed kind of a odd collection of drill bits. Um, having kept things sort of disorganized for so long, I would buy drill bits I needed for a project, and often I ended up with duplicates or ones that I didn't really need beyond the project, or like this one, I bought it and forgot what I bought it for and then never used it. I also want to be able to hang my drills upside down, but they're 3 different drills, and the Hitachi is fairly straightforward. It's got a way to register upside down, as does the Ryobi, but this goofball does not have a profile this way, so I don't know if I've got to mount it that way against the wall, which would be odd, or mount it this way, which again would be a little strange, but who knows? We'll figure it out. So I've got to make some decisions about what to get rid of. So I've decided I'm just going to filter my regular drill bits into this larger container I have of bulk drill bits. But sorting like this really gives you an opportunity to figure out or find some oddballs in your collection. This will be sort of hard to see, I believe, that these are 3 different sizes. There you are. 3 different sizes. This guy here is an oddball out of all of the drill bits that I have. It is not 5/32. It is not 11/64. It is between the two, so it has to be 21 1/28. And, well, that's not going to be a category of its own. As with all these fixtures, you have to customize it to your needs. So none of these is going to be perfect. I just need 3 box hangers for the drills, and I'm putting a shelf on top for some attachments and things. And then I'm putting a shelf on the bottom on which I'm going to put a tray, which is going to be this made from that piece of 2x6 in order to hold all the loose bits. Alright, so there's another one in the books. Not the most elegant thing, but it'll suit my needs very well. I see a lot of fancy ones online where they've got those, chamfered holders where it's, all of the bits are sort of arranged at an angle away from the wall. And because this is, above this bench and I don't plan to spend much time browsing in front, it just works easier for me to have a simple tray that has all my bits in it. And, that's just, I think, more sensible than trying to splay them all out on angled pieces here. So yeah, there's the drill holder. So I have to admit that I stole the idea for this saw holder from Evening Woodworker. He has a whole video out on his various French cleat fixtures. It's pretty simple, but also kind of genius if it works on my wall. I'm a little nervous about hanging my saws up like this, but it worked for him, so maybe it'll work for me. And yeah, so it's just a sloped block, and you use a dowel to trap the saw against the next block. I will glue fronts and tops on those to keep the dowel on the inside, but yeah, mechanically pretty simple, but also ingenious, and not my idea. Something I forgot to mention in the other footage is that I knocked the corners off of the wall end of the dowel for each holder so that the dowel isn't pressing against the teeth. If the dowel presses too hard against the teeth, it could ruin the set of the teeth or the space between the teeth relative to the body of the blade. And yeah, that just protects the cutting edge from being knocked out of alignment. Alright, so there we are. All of the saws hanging neatly in a row. Pretty sturdy too. I mean, I'm not worried about it at all. I, push on the wall, push on the fixture, and nothing falls out. So, yeah, not concerned. And it's a great space saver and easy access for my saws. Unfortunately, I misplaced the footage of me making this plane till. It is not all that complicated, and once again, people would want to customize it to the planes they have. It is a pretty simple backer with a 15-degree slope, and there are some magnets behind each plane to ensure that they don't tip off. It's quite sturdy, and there are little bevels at the bottom of each space on which to register the plane so that it doesn't fall off. Yeah, so I would make a build video of this if people were interested, but again, it's just an idea, and it pretty successfully holds all of the stuff I need for my planes and works out quite well.